Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Dee Jackson. I'm a speech pathologist, and I'll be your host today. We have joining us Dr. Kathleen Whitmire, ASHA Fellow, and most recently, ASHA Honors. Hello, Kathleen, how are you?
Doing great, Dee. Pleasure to be here with you today.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And today we will be discussing how digital therapy differs from traditional therapy, as well as teletherapy. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and jump on in. In recent years, we've seen evolution from traditional to teletherapy, which shifts the location of the SLP from the same room to the same screen, using technology as a medium. In this talk, we want to cover the next wave, digital therapy. Digital therapy makes use of technology at its best to augment therapy and achieve better outcomes. Sorry about that. Let's start with teletherapy, also known as telepractice. Many of you may have experienced telepractice before. Teletherapy is face-to-face therapy, and instead of an in-person therapist, the SLP is on the other side of the screen using a video call mechanism. With this modality, the SLP doesn't have tangible materials such as cards and worksheets, but rather a plethora of online materials to choose from. The clear benefit of teletherapy is accessibility. It solves the problems such as local shortage of SLPs or logistical challenges in accessing the right SLP. There are many nuances to telepractice, such as, can you maintain a personal connection with your client? What if you need to touch the client for tactile cueing? Can the client effectively see your face for visual modeling? Are they able to hear distinctive features in sound production? I can tell you from experience that it's still speech therapy the same way we've always done it. It requires an open mind and a bit of creativity, but once you start doing it and get the hang of it, you're gonna love it. I'll be glad to go into more details offline if you need me to. Let's look at some evidence. As you can see, telepractice is here to stay. 64% of SLPs use telepractice. Most areas of speech pathology is being addressed through this modality, and evidence suggests the outcomes are equivalent to in-person therapy, and over half of the states in the US have Medicaid reimbursement policies. So this is really great for our industry in the area of telepractice. Now, this is really what we want to focus on, which is digital therapy. Whereas teletherapy uses technology merely as a medium, digital therapy uses technology as part of therapy. Teletherapy addresses accessibility, but digital therapy addresses outcomes, and that's the big, big difference. That's what we all want as therapists. We want outcomes because we know that outcomes eventually produces progress. So on top of what teletherapy has to offer, digital therapy is outcome-focused, data-driven, has effective and engaging practice, utilizes a control loop, and is protocol-based. So what are the ingredients of digital speech language therapy? Well, thought you never ask. So we're going to jump on into that. This is the fun part. With digital therapy, speech language qualities or SOQs can be measured. Here is an example of an SLP working with a student on the S sound and correcting a lisp. She's showing a picture of a sausage to elicit the S sound. Let's listen to the first sample.
Sausage.
Okay, are we able to hear, Kathleen, were you able to hear that?
Perfect. That came through great this time, Dee. Thank you.
Okay, great, great. So you hear there that the sound was distorted on the S sound. Let's listen to it again, another sample.
Sausage.
I gave it 81%.
Sausage.
It's getting a little bit better at 89%.
Sausage.
And at 94%. So you just see the progression of the accuracy levels increase as the student is able to improve their sound production. All right, now we get to hear this cute little kid here give us a narrative on this language, on the sequencing event. Let's take a listen.
A boy was riding on a bicycle and he was looking at that plane and
at the end.
All right. Now let's take a look at the analysis of what we just heard. The system automatically does this. This takes the effort off of us as FLPs to have to track the data and take these outcomes ourselves. The system does this automatically. And so we see now that we're able to see a percentage of nouns, verbs, adjectives that are used. The system is able to measure for lexical density as well as give us a type token ratio. That's the biggest difference with digital speech language therapy, because these outcomes and these measurements are done for us. Now let's take another look. Here's another example of an SLQ that can be measured, which is a turn-taking sequence. We see here we have two people talking. The green represents the student or the client talking, and then the gray represents the peer that the student is talking to. We see the different exchange that's going on. Here, the system is able to automatically measure the percentage of time that is used talking and how many seconds and who is talking. This is great for our students who have pragmatic difficulties that might be working with social interaction, might be working with peer interactions and talking in social context. So this is a great way to have that measurement, again, at our fingertips for us to be measured automatically. And for this slide, I'll have Dr. Whitmire to jump in and talk about this slide here.
Thank you, Dee, because this is the part that really excites me. To me, this is one of the most exciting benefits of digital therapy. When the whole cycle is digital, you can be innovative with service delivery, and this slide helps to show that clearly. As we know, traditionally, therapy is offered typically in small groups, 15 to 20 minutes, twice a week. So the student has some opportunity to participate. SLP may be working on a variety of skills. You can give some assignments, hope that there's carryover into the classroom, but you can't track that yourself. You don't know what's going on outside. So when the student comes back in, you have to start all over again with what happened, how did it go? The digital advantage is incredible. First, the SLP has a one-on-one, individualized, focused session with a student to establish the target skill. Practice that's needed to achieve mastery is then passed on to practice sessions either with an SLP assistant or practice buddy or self-practice, both of which are done with mobile devices. Furthermore, all of the students' productions are captured digitally, and they're available for the SLP to review before the next session. This means the SLP has a record of all of the students' practice productions outside of the therapy session. And there are many more of those because of the time that's been scheduled with the practice buddy, as well as a very motivating and engaging self-practice. This is a tremendous advantage of digital therapy over the traditional approach. So now Dee is going to walk you through some of the details of this process. Go ahead, Dee.
Okay. Thank you, Kathleen. I just want to take a question from Mark McLean there. Thank you so much for chiming in and asking your question. Sorry. Is this done automatically? How does the system measure this automatically? And so the system uses artificial intelligence. Keeps clicking. I'm trying to click off your question here and it keeps going forward. So sorry about that. The system uses artificial intelligence to measure different SLQs. We're calling those speech language qualities. There we have the developers for the system use algorithms to measure those speech language qualities. So again, this is a way to automate what we do as SLPs, collecting the data, looking at those outcomes. But with digital therapy, that's the beauty of it. This system does it for us. I hope that answered your question. We're going to keep moving here. Thank you, Kathleen. Now that we understand the technology, let's jump into an actual therapy session. A few minutes before the therapy session, the SLP enters the system. He or she sees that the session starts in a couple of minutes. And we'll get back to this screen at the end of the cycle. Important to understand though, SLP follows an advised protocol, making life so much easier. Now let's enter the therapy room. Here is what an example of what the therapy room would look like. It's a secured video session with the client. Content from a huge library is selected according to the therapy protocol that's followed, and the measurements of speech or SLQs, speech language qualities, are being worked on. The SLP does not have to spend time asking the client, how was your week last week, or how are you doing? It's already in the system. She also does not have to spend precious face-to-face time on assigning tasks or motivating the client to practice. It's already done in the system too, and we'll jump into a little bit more of that. The SLP can focus on what she does best, which is making clinical decisions and establishing skills. At the end of the session, the SLP can say, all right, Sophie, I'll see you later. So this is our client here, Sophie, and this is the therapist. When the session ends, the SLP summarizes the session. Since it's protocol-based, the templates make it easy. You can see here how the session was summarized. Sophie worked hard during this week's session. We are seeing real progress as she names everyday objects, especially animals and clothes. This provides immediate feedback to the parents as well as the student. Then tasks are assigned from the team. Then tasks are assigned for team practice, which we call practice buddies. We're utilizing this digital speech therapy protocol platform in Texas right now, and we use speech language assistants for our practice buddies. Those practice buddies will have tasks that they will work on after school with the student, and the student downloads an app. These are what those tasks look like. Practice with the team, naming animals and pictures, describing animals to see if the team member can guess which animal it is. So these are what the tasks will look like for the student to work on with the practice buddy. This is what it looks like from this point of view of the student. The app is downloaded on their smart device. Most of them have smartphones, use smartphones. And it doesn't take more than a minute to assign these tasks. Of course, the SLP has the full flexibility in assigning the tasks. And then that's it. Sophie is now in the good hands of digital speech therapy, and the SLP can move on to the next client. Sorry. Tasks include practicing with an SLPA or practice buddies, as I said previously. And as we see here, all depending on the protocol of what the SLP has assigned. These tasks include content and real-time SLQ measurements and feedback. So again, here's another example of what it looks like from their point of view on the app here. And then the student can later rate how they did. As the practice session ends, the students can see their performance and progress in so many different ways. This motivates the student to practice more. And we've seen this in Texas. The students they're already using smart devices, and they already know how to get their phone and log on. This gives them the way to practice their speech goals at home in a modality that's very comfortable and familiar to them. Behind the scenes, this is the back office functions that takes care of the assignment completion. We'll tell you a little bit more about completion and engagement in just a few more minutes, but this is what this looks like behind the scenes. And just take note that these are all made up names and phone numbers and email addresses, but we wanted to just show you what it would look like behind the scenes. A week has passed now, and Sophie is back to the SLP therapy session. A few minutes before the session, the SLP looks at the dashboard, and she can see Sophie's assignment, completion, performances, and progress right there at her fingertips. And that's what's so great. As an SLP, we don't have to spend time going back, looking through notes and trying to figure out what to target and what to focus on. It's already in the system for us. She can see feedback from the SLPA, which we call speech buddies, and she can listen to Sophie's practices here. So with the SLPA, when the SLPA or the speech buddy is practicing with the student, those sessions are recorded for the SLP to listen to. That's just another beauty because we can listen to see how well they're practicing outside of the therapy session. Again, moving towards outcomes and progress. The SLP can scroll down to see Sophie's general progress, how she is doing versus her measurable goal. Did she complete or master her skills? Is she engaged in her tasks? This is what this will tell us. Again, with digital therapy, we can click on to have those measurements viewed, and we have them at our fingertips. The school also has those reports that they can access. And as a school therapist, that's golden because schools want to know if students are being seen, when they're being seen, the consistency of the therapy sessions. And with digital therapy, we have those reports that can be pulled at any time to show the school. All right, I'll have Dr. Kathleen, Dr. Whitmire to jump on in and take it from here.
All right, thanks, Dee. I think this slide gives you a really nice summary of the benefits that Dee has been discussing and the details and the advantages for the SLP as well as for the system. As you can see, digital therapy really empowers the SLP, provides a toolbox that enables the clinicians to focus on what they do best as highly qualified providers. It really places them at the top of the therapy pyramid. And because of everything else that the system does digitally, as you can see across the bottom there, the SLP is really in a position where she can make those supported, data-supported clinical decisions. She's the one who establishes the skills for the student. She controls the digital assignments. She really orchestrates the system. So as some have said, she's the captain of the ship as she's moving ahead, because the digital system is providing so much of the other work. This allows the SLP to get a lot more done with a reduced workload. This is tremendously important. Reducing that workload by removing the practice and the data collection from their responsibilities and having the system support that. It also allows the SLP to focus on more complex cases that may need more attention. So there's just a long list of really strong benefits in here for the student and for the SLP. Okay, let's look at some of the evidence that's behind this. Dee, if you can just move us on to that. Thank you. Now, we ran a feasibility study in Montana in the spring of 2018. We wanted to get this run through US schools and also to run this digital system in a rural area, because we know that's a target area of interest where there is reduced access for kids to get speech language therapy. So we wanted to really run it through in what could be a challenging situation. As Dee said, we're also providing digital therapy services right now down in Dallas, Texas, with some charter schools. So we've collected data through a number of interviews and questionnaires and such to really be able to measure how effectively this is taking care of services for kids. So let's look at some of what we've gathered. We have testimonials from SOPs and from the SOP assistants who served as practice buddies. When they identified benefits on an open-ended question, they put down so many, and you can see the top 5 listed here. All of them talked about improved outcome, improved communication between the SLP and the SLP assistant. Simplicity of use. Assignment completion was incredible, and even the monitoring dashboard was helpful to them. And we've received quotes such as the ones over here. It's really making a difference. His intelligibility was markedly better. It's so cool. Also, an interesting one, since kids are what they now call digital natives, and kids love doing things on their mobile devices, they're more motivated. So one of the clinicians said, rather than the kids saying, oh, I have to go to speech to practice, it's more of, I want to practice to get better. It's also because the feedback is given to the kid right away through the system. So SOP saw this as quick, direct, good, and very helpful. Okay, Dee? Thanks. We also talk to parents about this. We think it's important. They're involved from the home base on the self-practice that the student is doing. So we asked about parent engagement with a group in Texas. Asked if they participate in or observe the practice sessions. Over half said yes always, and over a third said yes sometimes. And also, how often does your child practice speech therapy at home every week? More than a quarter said once or 3 or more times a week. Over a third said twice. So the benefit has been to have parents plugged in supporting this, and we're finding that it's a real plus because now the parents know what's going on in therapy. They like that. It's helpful for them. It's a positive, and this is also a way for them to engage in that with their child. So it's been working very, very well. Okay, Dee, the next one, please. Thank you. Assignment completion. Of the therapy sessions that had been scheduled, 92% of them took place. They were completed. And of the practice sessions with the speech buddies, 87% of those were completed. This is very high. The big deal was the self-practice. Data show us that under a traditional system, when an SLP gives an assignment to a kid to practice outside of the therapy room, the assignments are completed 5% of the time on average. For our kids, they were completed 48% of the time, which really speaks to the motivation and interest in engagement of the system and how the kids are comfortable with this. As Dee showed you on one of the slides, we also asked the kids to talk about how they would rate themselves after a practice session. And remember, they're getting feedback from the system and saying, how do you think you did? And over 3/4 rated themselves as excellent. Just very good for them to feel that motivated in what they are accomplishing and getting the feedback about that. Okay, Dee. Thank you. This is an interesting one, and this speaks to the workload issue and the difference between establishing the skills and then having the practice in place to master those skills. So this is the average here. You can see the dark bars at the bottom.
Oh, that's
that's okay. That's the average of the 20-minute sessions with an SLP. And then the dark blue bar is the practice time on average for these 6 students. These were the ones in Montana who worked with the SLP assistants. And the lighter blue is the time that they spent in self-practice. So they had that 20 minutes on average per week with the SLP, but look at the time that they were engaged in practicing in order to achieve mastery. I think this slide shows it extremely well about an advantage of balancing what a digital system can do with what the SLP has done. Okay, Dee. Yeah, it's a really good one. All right. Yep. Now, I'm going to pass it back to Dee. She's going to go through some of the challenges that people raise about digital therapy.
Thank you, Kathleen. I'm going to take some questions. We have some questions here. And for all that are, I just want to remind everyone that you can ask questions by clicking the Q&A here. Mark asked, what do we mean by practice buddies, and are they in schools? Yes, this is all done in schools. We're using digital platform in schools. Our practice buddies, it's a sort of, you can look at it as a 2-part system. We have SLPAs practicing with the students after school by the use of an app. And this is just golden because as a school SLP, outside of the therapy setting, didn't really get much practice, much engagement. Kathleen went over some of the testimonials earlier because the parents are able to see what their child is doing now. And and with that, then you get transference of skills and you get the parents involved. And we all know that if we can increase parent involvement and engagement, then that's going to be better for our outcomes. Cheryl asked, what are the qualifications of an SLP buddy? And that does differ from state to state. Here in Texas, we utilize SLPAs. In other states, they don't have to be SLPAs. They are working with the students 15 minutes twice a week after school, and then the students have independent practice where they can use their smart device to work on tasks on their own without the practice buddy. So we are fostering a behavior of working on your goals constantly, working on your speech therapy is not just done in the speech session in the therapy room, but it's something that you need to work on in all aspects of your environment, in different contexts of your life. And so by using this system, it enables the therapist as well as the parents and the students to do just that.
And Dee, if you wouldn't mind if I just added one comment, it was interesting, as Dee was saying, there are a variety of different people who can serve as SLP buddies, as the practice buddies. It really depends on the state. It was interesting in Montana because the practice buddies were graduate students who were being supervised by university clinic supervisors. So it was a real interesting partnership with the SLP and the university to be providing those practice buddies. It was particularly helpful in a rural setting like that.
Right.
So you can get very, very creative and innovative in how you're providing the practice buddies. Thanks, Dean.
Great, thank you, Kathleen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go through some of the challenges. Of course, anything that's new, that's different, especially with technology even, you're going to have some opposition, some different challenges. Schools may not be open or receptive to this type of platform, this way of doing therapy. The values and the benefits of schools will need to be demonstrated. In one of the schools here in Texas, we had a parent who did not want her son receiving digital therapy initially. They did try it for a few weeks and then they stopped. But after a few weeks of not receiving the practices at home through the speech buddies, the practice buddies, the mother started missing it. She actually contacted us and asked, why did it stop? Why did the practices at home stop? And we had to inform her that it was all the same. This digital process is the same, is all in one rather. And so she didn't realize that the after school practices was the digital therapy that we were providing. So she asked for us to put her back on the caseload. And it's a great, powerful testimony because it shows how parents, when they're involved, they're more engaged. They see what their child is working on. They see the improvement. They see the progress. And it's just great all around. So those are some of the challenges. But even though there's challenges with anything, you can work through them. Let's talk about some of the logistics in schools. With teletherapy and digital therapy, we still have the problem of getting the student to the therapy room. Here in Texas, we're utilizing special ed teachers and teacher assistants to help in this area. They get the student from the classroom and bring them to the therapy room. Some states may not allow therapy minutes after school to be counted towards the IEP minutes. Here in Texas, that is the case. We're able to use those minutes to go towards the IEP. And so that might be a challenge in some other states as well. And then can IEPs and ARD meetings, we call them ARD meetings or IEP meetings other places, but in Texas we call them ARD meetings. And can those meetings be conducted remotely? That's a challenge too, just making sure the equipment is set up and working, internet is working and reliable. So those are things to think about. All right, so that pretty much goes through our presentation here. I just want to make note that digital therapy may not be for everyone. It's only for those SLPs that want to be a part of something innovative, want to be a part of something different, want to change the course of how services are being delivered. I've been an SLP now for 20 years, and this is so exciting because I can see how it's transforming how I deliver services. The students are engaged. It gives me the tools and the outcomes where I can see the difference and be able to focus on making those clinical decisions and not so much of some of the tasks and collecting the data. The data, now analyzing the data is what I love to do, and that's what the system does for me. I can take what's already analyzed and use that to make the decisions. So we are looking for people that want to be a part of that and want to be a part of, we call the revolution in changing and helping to deliver services in a better way, in a more effective way. Kathleen, do you have anything to say on that?
I think that's an excellent point, Dee, that we're really looking at people who are open to change and advancement, and somebody who's interested in looking at something new that's happening. And that does tie into what you said when this started. Also, teletherapy is here. And this is taking teletherapy another step by making it digital therapy. So it's very cutting edge, very forward thinking, but it's clearly writing on where the profession is going right now. It's just out in front.
Great. Thank
Yeah.
you. So you may be asking, okay, well, how can I get involved? How can I be a part of the revolution? How can I try this out in my campus or in my schools, or how can I even get more information? You can contact us here at this email address, us@ampliospeech.com. We are looking for SLPs to service schools in our contracts all over the country. We're looking to we're looking for more schools as well. So if you have contracts or contacts and have people that you think this would be a great fit for, you think that they would want to hear more about it, please contact us. We have a very attractive affiliate program for those SLPs or individuals who have school contracts. We have a compensation package that we can talk about if we decide to partner together in that. And again, it's just a great way to deliver services. It's really, really innovative. So if you are interested in that, if you have other questions, if you have want more information, you can contact us here. I'm gonna just leave it open to see if anyone else has any other questions.
And we have one from Mark asking if it's complicated to operate. I will tell you, Mark, it's not complicated to operate. And this company, the company we're working with, which is Amplio Speech, provides very good training for the SOPs who want to be involved in this, and ongoing training and good tech support and backup. We found in Montana that if there were any questions at first, as they were becoming comfortable with the system, they were very easy to resolve. So based on the experience we've had, no, this is not complicated or overwhelming whatsoever. It's a good question. It's the kind of question a lot of people ask.
Great. Kathleen, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, this is it. Tracy was saying, okay, my concern is allowing SLPs to have more time and administrators thinking they can double the SLP caseloads because of that extra time. Any response to this? No, I certainly wouldn't talk about this as extra time. We understand what we can do with this, but we also understand how complex all of the cases are. And it isn't just therapy time. ASH's workload policy on this has made that perfectly clear, that there are many aspects to working with a student. And by having a digital system that automatically gathers the data, what we're doing is enhancing the way we can monitor and track what's happening. It's going far beyond what an SLP would do. And the practice is just something we always hoped would happen. What is going to happen with this, because the SLPs just weren't able to engage in any of that, what is going to happen with this is that we're going to be able to accelerate student achievement. So it isn't that we're spending less time just on therapy. We're being much more efficient and effective with what we're doing with that therapy, but we're going to be able to move the kids through more quickly because of the accelerated achievement, and that will move us more quickly to dismissal. I hope that helps, Tracy. Again, I can understand your question, but it isn't just, with administrators cutting it in half. A lot of this wasn't being done at all before, which was really slowing us down. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
I think that's it for our questions.
I think that might be all.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, again, here's our email. You can contact us. I'll give a couple of seconds here where you can jot that down.
Oh, and one more question did come in.
Okay.
Excuse me, can you give an example of how you encourage parents? I think that's a great question, Shirley. And Dee's doing a lot of the work in Dallas. You may want to tack on. My first thought in this is you don't have to encourage parents.
Not at all.
You don't have to. The fact that parents are seeing this happen, and she's saying encourage parents for involvement in therapy, it is happening. The practice sessions are given. The parents are told that, this is how you set it up and what's happening. The parents are so loving a window into what's going on that they don't need that encouragement. That's coming on very quickly for them. And it's actually what they've always wanted, to just see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're watching the progress. I think a good example is the one Dee gave of some parent who was uncomfortable with the idea of digital therapy in school, but absolutely wanted to practice at home, not realizing that it was all part of the package. So at that point, she said, well, then put me back in with digital, when she understood parents love it. Dee, if you want to add any more to that from your experience.
Yeah, thank you. And I was just going to just add to that, not only encouraging the parents for practicing, the students love it too. So, you know, when they come home from school, the first thing that they do is probably get a snack and then jump on their Xbox, PlayStation, or get their iPad or some type of digital device. And so this is allowing our industry to come into the 21st century and be a part of those devices as well. By using not just a game, not just an arbitrary a game, but their actual goals that they're working on in school, their goals that they should be focusing on to improve, to make them better communicators. And so with the students being motivated to practice, then that's also driving the parents. The parents can see the enthusiasm. The parents can see that they are not being asked to practice, that they're coming home and practicing on their own. We had Kathleen was going over some of the data on the survey that we put out, and we saw that in some cases students were doing even more independent practice than what was actually assigned. So again, with the digital system, there are tasks that are assigned, and the independent practice where the student practice on their own, and then the team practice where they practice with a practice buddy. The student was, in some cases, practicing more on their own because they really enjoyed and was motivated to work on their goals. Have another question here.
Yeah, and again, Dee, I don't know if you would have taken this, but it's an important one. Shirley says, does it require one-on-one sessions to teach parents how to practice with a child? Good question. It isn't the parent practicing with a child. It's the self-practice the child's doing in the system. The assignments that have been given to the kid. The parent is there seeing that the kid is on the system, that the kid is using that. It's really more, how would you put that, Dee, that the parents are witnessing it,
right?
But they're not running the practice. So that's a good, thank you, Shirley. It's a good clarification for us to make.
Right, thank you. The student is practicing with the speech buddy or practicing on their own on the app. The parent, though, can see what they're doing because there's a login that has to be typed in. So for our younger students, the parents will log them in probably with their login and password. And then the parents also schedule the sessions with the speech buddy, with the practice buddy. And so the parents are aware and engaged into the process because of that. Is it okay? And so we have a question from Mark here. Is the system secured? Yes, the system is definitely secured. Oh, you're welcome, Shirley. The system is secure.
Yeah, it's HIPAA and FERPA compliant.
Sorry, thank you. Yes, and so we follow all of those guidelines and regulations for security and sharing personal data. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for your time, your questions. Great questions. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, contact us if you have any other questions, if you want additional information. And definitely for those who are interested in being affiliates or being employed, we are looking for you. Thanks so much. Kathleen, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks, Dee. It's always nice working with you.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.